It has been 1 year since... Got it. Let's go again. It's been 1 year since we completed our full gut, down to the studs, everything's new, changed locations, plumbing, electrical, insulation, all the things, kitchen remodel. And the question is, do I have regrets? If you're new to my channel, I am Sarah. Welcome to Grace in My Space. I want to talk about kitchen design regrets, but also the good stuff. So let's just dive right in. A very quick backstory on this home. We purchased the home knowing that we needed to do a basic full gut remodel on the space, and the kitchen was the first on the list. So we transformed a 1970s kitchen and living room and combined two whole spaces to make one long, narrow kitchen on our main level. We did this remodel as part of a whole home remodel that we've worked on for 1.5 years. The kitchen itself took 8 months. So now here we are 1 year after the completion of the kitchen, lived with it for 1 year, loved on it for 1 year, entertained in it for 1 year, and these are the things that come to mind. Let's start with the number one thing that everybody told me that I would regret: open shelves. Now, I have personally designed and remodeled 4 kitchens in 4 personal homes. I've also done work for others, but all this to say, I'm not new to kitchen design, but I'm not also an expert. And so there are things that you learn with every single kitchen. There are changes that you would make for the next one, and I want to be able to communicate some of those things to you as hopefully a resource if you are trying to design your own kitchen, for just things to think through, think about, perceive how you use a space, and what I've done here, how it might translate to your home if you're interested in the details. Now, first of all, I have a very small amount of open shelving in here. I very specifically designed this kitchen so that I would have these small 18, 24-inch shelves for decorating. I didn't ever intend for them to be for practical use, though you could store plates and cups and bowls and whatnot on them. I only ever designed it though to decorate, because I think that even though this kitchen is beautiful, if I didn't have a little nook, a little corner of the kitchen to decorate, then the rest of the design would kind of fall a little bit flat. And so I'm really happy that I have included the open shelving, but a lot of people are very against open shelving in a kitchen because of dust and because it's not as much storage as you would get in a closed cabinet. So I get the comments a lot. Look at all that wasted space. Oh my gosh, aren't you always dusting? That's just a trend. It's a passing fancy. It's gonna be outdated in no time. And all I have to say to that is, why are you all so concerned about open shelves? Sorry. People are very, very strongly opinionated about open shelves. Now, in my design, I have a very large kitchen, so I did not need this little teeny corner to be storage. And so what I would say, if you are considering open shelving, is, do you need the storage? Because if you don't and you love to decorate, then why not put some open shelving in? Now, if you have a very small kitchen and you're already lacking in storage and you don't like the look of exposed storage, like plates or bowls on an open shelf, then don't do it. Absolutely don't do it, because it will be an eyesore for you personally in your own home, and it will be something that you will regret. But if you don't need the storage, you love to decorate, or you even love like easily accessible plates and bowls and stuff that you can just grab and go, and you don't mind to dust a little bit, it gets dusty, all flat surfaces get dusty, then do it. That's all I have to say about that. Item number 2 that everybody told me I would regret: the sink in the kitchen island. Now, I want to start by saying that I worked for weeks to try not to put the sink in the kitchen island. we had a lot of limitations on the only perimeter wall that we had in this space to work with, where I would have preferred to put the kitchen sink. I love a sink under a window looking out over a yard. That's what I wanted, that's what I tried to do, and it didn't work for various reasons. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that meant that this was the only logical place for it to be. And after living with it for a year, here's what I'll say. I had to get my coffee for this one, I need a little boost. Our island is 10 feet long by 44 inches wide. So it's a very substantial island. And for that reason, it's been okay having the sink in it. I also do enjoy looking out into the rest of the home versus looking into a yard, because if I have guests over and whatnot and I am doing up dishes or I'm filling a pot or whatever, I can look directly at them instead of having my back to them looking out a window. So that's been nice, but I will say, if I had any smaller of an island, I would not probably like to have the sink in it. It's kind of hard to capture this side because the windows always blow out my camera, but this is the length of my island, and consider if it was maybe half the size, which is a pretty standard size for a kitchen island. I would lose a lot of my prep space, a lot of my bar seating if I was trying to accommodate seating at the island, and it would be a little bit cluttered, be a little bit too much. So if you have a large enough island, sink in it, it's great. I absolutely love that I have the dishwasher on this side, I have the trash on this side, so it makes scraping plates, loading in the dishwasher, super simple, super seamless, but it's also what you see in the middle of your kitchen, so there's that. Now with that said, let me say what I would have regretted much more than a sink in the island would have been a cooktop in the island, because that was my alternative. I could have swapped these two and then had cooktop in the island, where then I would have grease splattered all over the island all the time, which is also like the collection spot in any kitchen, any home. The island, if you have one, the peninsula, any long counter surface, that's where everybody puts their stuff. It's where the school papers go, it's where the purses go, it's where the hats go, it's where the sweatshirts go. Why can't they go somewhere else? Somebody tell me that solution. So if it would have been a stove in the island, that would have been worse in my opinion, for just the personal way that we use our space. I also then would have had to do either some kind of floating hood or a downdraft from the back to have proper ventilation for the stove top, and I really love an actual hood with ventilation that's properly done, goes out of the house, and is a good resource. So I'm very glad that I put the sink in the island, because I wouldn't have wanted to put the oven in it. At the same time, it's not my favorite location. Does it work though? Absolutely. Let's talk about my biggest regret in the kitchen design. These banks of cabinetry are fantastic, okay? They are large, they hold a lot. I don't want to show you too much of my mess, but that's my regret. That's my one biggest regret, is that I chose to do stationary shelves within these two banks of cabinetry. Now, I designed it this way intentionally to save money on the rollout shelves, because at our last kitchen, we had 15-inch depth cabinets that are very similar to this in size, and they were perfect, and I didn't need the rollout shelves. Well, in this kitchen, since the bank is next to the fridge, I made them deeper because I had the room to be deeper, so they're 20 inches deep. Turns out, an extra 5 inches actually matters for storage. So now things get lost back here kind of often. I have accommodated my storage with a bunch of different bins for pantry items, which works just fine. Okay, they work great. But if we're talking custom kitchen design and we're talking custom kitchen budget, then perhaps I should have budgeted more for the rollout shelves. And they can be retrofitted, which I did on this bottom shelf because it was literally impossible to get anything from back there. But then I'm losing space on both sides because it's a retrofit rather than just doing it the proper way the first time. Now, the piece of my kitchen that the most people had questions about, and I questioned my own design on the most, was this coffee hutch top thing. It's an appliance garage, but I prefer to call it a coffee hutch. It just makes it sound better. My original design for this appliance garage had doors that either opened like these ones do, but then slid inside of the cabinet to be completely tucked out of the way. Or my other option was the same kind of flip up door. The whole door flips up and then slides inside of the cabinet. Now, my cabinet maker and I went rounds on these two options because they have seen in the past from other builds that they tend to malfunction and they tend to get stuck, and then they're getting redone often, and they also had a problem with the amount of space that they take up, not only in width but also in height inside of your cabinet if you're recessing the doors back inside of it. So they convinced me to move forward with this mechanism that goes like that. It's a semi-regret, but also based on their experience and their recommendation, I'm not sure the other options would have been any better. Now, I am a fairly tall person. We are a very tall family compared to the national average. And so one of my biggest issues with this is line of sight. I have to go like this to get the coffee out. Not a big deal. No, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. But the other issue with this type of design is that now I can't access anything in my upper cabinets. So I can be strategic in how I'm storing things. We currently have the coffee mugs and the cups up here because it makes the most sense in relationship to where the dishwasher is for ease of putting away. But what that means is I've had to train myself, which is also not a big deal. Like, none of these things are a big deal, right? This is a custom kitchen, it's beautiful, it's fantastic, it's a privilege, and I'm grateful for it. But if we're gonna talk about things that I could have done differently, this is important to talk about. So now I have to train myself, my family has to train ourselves. Get the coffee mug out, get whatever you want out first, and then open the cabinet, make the coffee, leave it open. I leave it open so that any steam or heat from the coffee maker or from the toaster or from the microwave aren't warping my wood inside of the cabinet. And then when I'm all done with it for the day, close it on up, or for the minute or the hour. Now, would the other two solutions of recessing the doors in or up have made this perfectly accessible? Yes, it would have. But I also would have lost about 5 inches on the interior, and it would not have then been big enough for the things that I wanted to store in here, which is my toaster, microwave, and coffee maker. So even though a kitchen is custom, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfect. And so there are just accommodations that you have to make along the way. Is it still a fantastic solution? Yes, it is. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that has ever bothered me about this kitchen. And I think the only thing that it really is the fact that the family leaves their junk on the countertop all the time. Which doesn't matter how well you design a kitchen, that's just gonna happen anyways. I know, let's talk about this. Welcome to my biggest disappointment in design that turned into my greatest joy, the kitchen fireplace. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video, we turned an existing kitchen and living room into one very long kitchen. It's 23 feet long by 13, 14 feet wide. And so it's much longer than it is wide. But the original house had this space as the living room. So when I first designed the house in the way that I was going to remodel it, I actually blew out this whole wall in my design plan. And it was going to be a very large, open living room on the other side of the wall. That didn't work out for budget purposes. I'm going to link up my home remodel video for you, and it talks more about the why and the how. But we decided to keep the fireplace. I did a little makeover on the brick. And I left the 1970s or 80s, I'm not sure exactly when they put it in, paneling, because it ended up matching our kitchen cabinets very well. And it's created like the most cozy little kitchen seating area. And we sit here every morning and we have coffee, and the kids are at the bar stools having breakfast, and it is fantastic. I love that it is a unique feature. Not a lot of kitchens have fireplaces. Does the fireplace work? No, shh. We don't need to speak of these things. But someday it will, when we have the money to get that fixed. And so it is something that was one of those things I tried to design out of my plans, and then I had to design around within my plans, and I'm so glad that I did. Now, one of the challenges in filming in a really long kitchen is that it's kind of hard to get the whole space in one shot for you. But one thing that I had a lot of questions on is why I didn't do any upper cabinetry. And I think that that's very interesting that people don't view certain types of cabinetry as adequate storage just because it's not the traditional like upper floating cabinet that there's a gap between the counter and the cabinet itself. I mean, if you look at my kitchen, this entire hutch is floor to ceiling cabinetry, and so is that whole wall, floor to ceiling pantry cabinetry, and then a 10-foot island and 20 feet of perimeter lower cabinets. That is a ton of storage, you guys. So I always get the question, do you regret not putting any upper cabinets in? And in my mind, I have put in upper cabinets here, and I have put in a whole wall of upper cabinets over there. So no, I do not regret that. I love our windows. I think that the moral of this story is that you can create something that's custom. You can design it yourself and spend hours upon hours agonizing over every decision, or you can pay a designer and they'll do it for you. Either way, somebody is putting the effort into trying to make something like this exactly what you want. And in the end, there's probably still going to be things that you would change when it's all said and done and you're actually living in the space. There's also something to be said about life stages, and while you design a kitchen hoping that it's gonna last you 30 to 40 years, that 30 to 40 years is a huge amount of time to transition how you live. You can start with babies and end up with grandchildren in the same kitchen. And every stage of life changes how you use a space. It changes who's in it. It changes how you're entertaining, what kind of people are there, whether you're having kids doing homework at the counter or you're an empty nester and now you barely use the space at all. Everything changes in the lifespan of a room. And so making the most of the space that you have, and if you have inconveniences or if you have things that you might change, maybe making an effort to do that outside of redoing an entire kitchen. Like my pantry, I'm gonna have to redo how I store things, but I don't have to rebuild it. I just need to be creative in my solutions now. And it still works, and it's still functioning, and it still holds all of our food, and we're still fed every day. If you're designing a kitchen and you are agonizing to the point of indecision, just remember that you will do your best, you will make mistakes, and it will still serve you and function well at the end of the day. Now, I didn't have a lot of actual regrets for this kitchen because I feel like even though there are some things that I would have done a little bit differently, there was also not really an option to do them differently and have it still be what I needed. So it's just the best solution for where I was at the time and where I'm at right now. But there are a few things that I absolutely love that I think that everybody should put into a kitchen. So here's some things to think about. Wherever your sink is, whether it's in an island or it's in a peninsula or it's on the perimeter of your kitchen, do this. Dishwasher on the right, trash can on the left. Pull it up, hide it away. It's fantastic. It's the best, most functional part of the kitchen. You scrape the plate, you rinse it off, you put it in the dishwasher. It's fantastic. Many times I have seen people design it where it's sink, dishwasher, trash can, and just think about the functionality of that. So your dishwasher then is open and you're emptying into the trash and you have to step over your dishwasher to rinse it in the sink and then put it in the dishwasher. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Number 2, also related to the dishwasher, if you have the ability, because not every kitchen has the space and the layout options for this, but if you do have the ability, put your dishwasher directly across from the place that your dishes are stored. And make sure that you have enough space, this is dirty, sorry about that, to open this and open this at the same time. Now make sure that you can actually pull out the clean dishes, grab, put in what you need to, and it's so easy when most of your dishes are put away directly across from the dishwasher. Also, definitely consider your lighting. Don't go small on lighting in the kitchen. We have overhead lights, but we also have island lights, and we also have range sconces. And the amount of light in here is fantastic, especially because I live in Michigan and our days are very dreary for most of the year, except the summer. It's our only redeeming quality. Have as many lighting options as you need. Task lighting underneath of upper cabinets, if you do have them, is a fantastic option as well. And put them on separate switches, but only like 2. We don't need 4 switches for all of the lights in your kitchen, because then you're like, and you just constantly are turning them all on. If you don't have them on separate switches though, then you also don't have the option for a little bit of mood lighting in the evening. So we have all of our main can lights on one switch, and then we have the sconces and the island lights on a separate switch. So I can turn off the upper ones and have a little bit of mood lighting, a little bit of a cozy glow, but it's not as bright as I would probably want in the evening for work, for task work. So just give yourself a couple of lighting options. And then whether you're doing a coffee hutch or an appliance garage or a whole bank of pantry cabinets, or you have a butler's pantry or a scullery, whatever the case is in the way that you're gonna design your house and the space that you have, I would highly recommend figuring out a way to hide your everyday appliances. It's my favorite thing that I can close this and I don't have my coffee maker, my microwave, or my toaster visible, but I'm also not on a daily basis trying to grab them from a lower cabinet, picking them up, putting them on the counter, plugging them in, unplugging it, putting it back down under the counter. Oh, 2 minutes later, I forgot I needed to toast something, pulling it back out. So if you don't want to see them on the counter and you have the space, find a way to hide it. There's tons of options for appliance garages, built-in pantries, and it's really worth your effort to try and keep those everyday appliances that you use often hidden, but accessible all the time. It's my favorite feature of the kitchen. And this is my other favorite feature. Pull out spice rack, oil rack. All of our oils and large things can go down here. Bigger spices and whatnot can go on here. This is messy, it's real life. But then it also has the pull-out spice rack. It's actually, you know, aesthetically pleasing to some extent. And then they're all right here next to the stove. It's beautiful, it's a thing of beauty. If you're designing a kitchen, I would love to answer any questions that you have. Drop them in the comments. And also tell me what your favorite feature of your kitchen is, because I think that it's helpful for other people to read somebody else's favorite thing, and it just sparks ideas and it gives them something to think about for their own design as they're planning out their kitchen. So let's help each other out. Drop it in the comments. Oh, also, maybe comment your biggest regret, since this is what this video is supposed to be about. And we will all learn from each other. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.